make the motion to call to order.
Second.
Okay, so quick programming updates, and I'm not going to inundate you with too much because I could go on for about 15-20 minutes on summer stuff. I'll tell you right now, summer numbers are really strong, and we're happy about that. Our summer day program, because I don't use the full letter word that rhymes with lamp, that puts me under a different category. So that program, 5 of my 7 weeks are almost sold out already. 1 week is really only about half capacity, and that's probably a big vacation week. The first full week of August. But other than that, great numbers. We're thrilled. And that's across the board for all of our summer programs. For what we have going on now, we have soccer shots for tots. So I think I told you guys we had a new vendor come in this year running that. Our old vendor was a victim of COVID. The company just couldn't sustain throughout that. So he's packed up shop and is doing something different now. So we have a new vendor who's coming from North Andover. So far, the partnership's great. Last weekend on Sunday was kind of sketchy weather. They did exactly what we would hope for 2- and 3-year-olds. They canceled the class for the day. They'll make it up at the end. I can tell you that Reading runs a similar class with a different contractor. They had classes last Sunday. As a parent, I wouldn't want to be sitting my 2- or 3-year-old sitting outside in a misty rain when it's a little cool out. It's just not fair. They're paying $25 a class, more or less, and nobody gets anything out of it. So our vendor's doing the right things. He's doing a good job. And we have 34 total kids signed up for that program. That's a good, strong number for us in the spring, especially considering WSA, Wakefield Soccer Association, has their own program for that age level as well. I typically don't compete with it, but in this kind of world where we need as much revenue as we can get, we ran a program, and I think we have good numbers, and we're running a different program than they are. So it's going well. We have an archery program that starts up on May 11th. Right now, we only have 3 signed up for that program, but we're doing that in conjunction with Stoneham Recreation. So Stoneham had sent kids to Wakefield last year because they didn't have space. This year, I was concerned about having space, so our kids are going over to Stoneham. So it's good. It's a good little trade-off in the program we'll run, and that's, at the end of the day, our goal for it. We added a new program right before vacation started. It's rock climbing with Central Rock Gym in Stoneham. That kind of came to us through Woburn Recreation. They had started this program. They weren't getting great signups, and they asked us if we wanted to join. We said sure, and we had 10 kids who registered immediately. We had a wait list. We only had 4 that we could take to start, so we had 10. And Central Rock's like, "Wow, your numbers are so strong. We're going to go ahead and take them all." So all 10 kids are registered. We're now started another wait list, and we'll see where it goes. But it's exciting for a brand new program, and the vendor seems fantastic. And I've heard nothing but great things about the programming there. So we're excited about that. And then community gardens. So the community garden plots are officially open on Saturday. I'm actually going to be down there at 9:30. We have a storage shed down there that we're letting the gardeners use this year. I got to give them keys. If you drive by there in the next couple days, I put up some signs today so everybody would know where their plot is, as opposed to giving them the plot plan and saying, "Hey, go find where number 1 is, number 2 is," because though I look at it and think it's easy, somebody else may not. So we put a sign up there for everybody, and it looks really nice. Dennis Fazio will get water turned on, clean up some of the corners where some leaves are, and that place should be ready to roll on Saturday, and everybody's excited about it. We had, I think it was 96 total folks register for the lottery. We accepted 43 of them. We gave 3 plots away, 1 to the Boys and Girls Club and 2 to Girl Scouts troops, and they're all happy. We ended up taking 3 people off the wait list from the original selections. And actually, so my lottery, so I go to start that on April 14th, and for whatever ungodly reason, I couldn't get Facebook Live to work. That's exactly how I was going to draw numbers. So we have the nice, you can see what's going on. It was not working no matter what I did. It was 10 minutes of trying to figure it out. And I've done it before. I couldn't do it. And I don't know if it's my computer, me, whatever. So Karen and I, my admin, we just ended up drawing names the way we've always done it in Arlington. I did have one person kind of question it, saying that, she was concerned that it wasn't public. I don't know what you want me to do when a technical error happened that I had no control over. I guess we could have recorded it in the sense of it, but we're not there to hurt anybody. We only have so many spots. We want everybody to get one, but there's 43 that we had out of the 90 something. So it is what it is. She was a gardener last year. She was just super excited about maybe having a plot. So I think I squashed that, but that was out there for a little bit, that she was unhappy with the process, and hopefully next year it can be smoother. I'll do more tests before the lottery next year, so I make sure I don't go through those hangups again. But we're in good
And how many people that I'm sorry if you already said this, but how many people that had it last year got it this year?
So I actually tallied that up yesterday. So it was 15 yesterday out of the 43 who got it last year. 15 of it got them again this year. And then there was a 16th added today because somebody didn't get back to me about their plot, whether they wanted it or not. I'd reached out numerous ways. So sadly, I had to toss theirs to the side and pull a new name, and it was somebody who had a plot last year. So, and most of those people have requested the same plot. That was an easy thing to do. So
it's great to hear there was so much interest, Dan. And
Well,
unfortunately, everybody couldn't get it, but the fact that you had 90 something applications is really remarkable.
And I'll admit that the 96 or whatever it was is a little skewed because we allow 2 registrations per household.
Oh,
But
okay.
still, unique households, we're still in the upper 70s, low 80s. I mean, the numbers were there to support the garden in maybe future gardens. That's not something that's going to happen today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, but maybe a couple years down the road, something that, if there's space and if there's still the demand, we could certainly do that.
Is there still only one per household though, even if their name
Still
was
only-
put twice?
So I did have one household, which we drew both names for it. I reached out to them and said, would you mind giving up one of your plots? We have 96 people who want to do this. You guys want to, and they were more than happy to do so.
Great.
And people genuinely want people to participate, which is the nice thing. So they didn't want to hold on to both. They just wanted the chance to get one. And they were happy that when they got 2, it was great. It was easy for them to give one up. So they were fantastic about it. Yep. Any other questions about gardens or programs? No. Okay. So as far as Civic Center, so things are going pretty smooth over there. We are still waiting for tables. So when we had the program from Wakefield Academy come over for the school year, we got some tables donated by Linfield Public Schools. They were looking to get rid of them. They were in decent shape. So town went and picked them up. We put them at the Herd School for a while, and then we brought them over to the Civic Center. So they're still in the gym, these tables, or in the Heritage Room. I'm getting DPW to help me remove them. I'm going to do it with them. Bring them back to Herd, and then we're going to open up the gym for pickleball. I just can't do it until I have a safe place. There's just too many things there, too many obstacles. So once those are there, pickleball will reopen. I imagine that we'll probably get to those tables next week. We're just waiting for the box truck from the school department. And I know that the demand is there for the pickleball already because I'm getting phone calls off the charts. When we do it, I'm only going to rent out 2 courts. So we have 3. I'm going to rent out the 2 end courts, and that's going to be a private rental for somebody. If they want to rent court 1 or court 3, they can do that. But I'm not doing drop-in. And I won't, and our groups, when they rent it, is no more than 6. So I want 12 people, even though we can have 200 people inside now, I want to make it nice and safe for the folks so they feel comfortable coming back to us. And then in September, we'll really fire up and do as we've always done. And then another good thing that came in yesterday was our CARES Act money came in for the second portion of Wakefield Academy. So we got CARES Act money from September to December, and that was about $71,000. And that was for the use of the gym in the Heritage Room. Then we put in CARES money again for January through April. No, I'm sorry, January through March. And that was for another $73,000. And then we'll do CARES Act money again because Academy is still there. They're there in the mornings from 7 to 8:15, and then afternoons from 2 to 6 in both those spaces. And we estimate that's gonna be another $55,000 that's gonna come to us. So for a department that was getting crushed by doing nothing last year, we'll be in the black. Amazing how that can happen. So But that's really all that we're going on with Civic Center. Any questions about Civic Center?
That space that JC Marketing gave up.
Yep.
Is it all rented out or just part of it?
So they only gave up half of their space, or they're only giving up half of their space. Hasn't happened yet. They will be in there until at least June 1st, could be July 1st. And then I have another tenant, the Mass Partnership for Youth, who is 100% committed to going into that space. And they will take that over whenever we're able to renovate it, which I've had conversations with Chris Pierce from DPW. They want to get in there, paint. They want to do a new rug. We want to make it look nice for the new tenant in there. And we've wanted to renovate it a little bit anyways. So it's kind of perfect timing to get it done when JC Marketing pops out. So it might be, we might get no revenue for it for a month or two, but it'll look nice. And like I said, Mass Partnership's already in the building and they're thrilled to get even more space because they're busting at the seams and have needed it for years.
So in this remodeling, is JC Marketing getting any fresh paint or carpeting or no?
If you visited JC Marketing's office, it would be impossible to do that. We'd love to.
I
They
actually
just
have been
so
up
much.
there once.
They have so much stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and I know that
know
they're
that.
downsizing some of it. And if it's possible, we'll do it. I don't see that being possible. They have so many things up there. You know, Ann Hadley is a busy lady. And a lot of customers come in and out of there. So I don't know how it would be a reality, unfortunately. Any other questions? Yep. Okay. Moving on to fields. So youth groups are up and running, which is great. The high school schedule finally came to us. The final high school schedule for spring came to us last week. Had very minimal impact on youth sports, which is great. You know, obviously high school has priority, but you know, I do have a special place for the youth because I want to make sure that they get their needs met too. You know, obviously it's been a strange year and a lot has gone on and kids have missed so much. So I wanted to make sure that they could get on when they could get on. I think it was maybe one soccer game and maybe one or two lacrosse games that had to be moved and they had their schedules planned for months. So the fact that we're here and maybe 3 games rescheduled, we're actually in a really good place. So that's good. Men's softball actually officially starts on this coming Sunday. Women will actually start sometime in June. I don't have their dates yet, but I do have the men, so they'll be ready to roll. I still need to work on these baseball schedules for the over 50 men's baseball, the Inner City League, and the Twi League. I have the over 50s. I now need to compare it to the high school schedule, see if there's any conflicts there. Inner City League, I know that they'll use Wednesdays and Sundays. They always have. I still know what those dates are, and they are aware that the high school will have priority, and the youth knows that as well. And then Twi League, they'll start up sometime in middle of June, usually after Father's Day. So we should be all set there too. We do have 2 out-of-town rentals right now at Ewell. Obviously, I ran that by youth baseball to make sure there was no impact on them. So Pure Baseball and Extra Innings are using Ewell generally on Saturdays or Sundays in the morning time when youth isn't using it. And that's worked out well. It's a little extra revenue, which leads me to, you know, we're only charging these outside groups $20 per hour for use of a grass field. And it's time to look at that and see what we can do. You know, nothing against Pure Baseball, nothing against Extra Innings, but they are AAU programs. They're charging thousands of dollars per athlete, and we're getting $20 per hour. So it's something I need to look at structure-wise, see what other towns are doing first, and kind of pull it together and see what we can do. Because I will say, I feel like we get a lot of requests from out-of-town groups, and it might be because our fields are really low cost. You know, I want to keep our in-town low because, well, taxpayers paid for it. But if they're from out of town or people are, you know, willing to spend $5 grand for baseball programs, and that's what AAU goes for these days, I feel like there should be a commensurate, you know, money coming to us. So that's something that I definitely need to look at. So just to know that that's on the horizon, that once I probably get summer going, that'll be my focus to kind of pull that together, bring it to you guys. It's something that we're going to need to vote on at some point. Because even with turf fields, the amount of requests I get from out of town groups is off the walls.
Dan, do you know, are there any like people that we've rented to a lot that if we increase the fee, they're going to be like blindsided by this?
I think I honestly believe with a lot of these groups, they think that they're getting the sweetest deal.
Yeah.
So I think if we sat there and said, and I'm just throwing out a number, well, okay, out of town AAU for grass fields can be $50. They're not even going to bat an eye.
Okay.
You know, and I've had actually, I don't know if you were here at that time, Julie. We used to do a soccer tournament or rent the fields to GPS soccer during Memorial Day weekend.
Mhm.
And at the time we were charging them $150 an hour. They laughed at it. I mean, they that's it. We go to Lancaster and we're getting charged $250.
Okay.
And the fields is turf field.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, those groups are not going to scoff at it. Again,
Okay.
if we keep our in-towns low, great. You know,
Right.
men's softball, I mean, they use a lot of time, but there's a lot of Wakefield guys, or there's Wakefield ties. I don't want to overcharge them. The women's, I don't want to overcharge them. The AAU programs that are for profits,
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I think there's a conversation to be had, you know, and it's not AAU, just AAU baseball. That's club soccer. That's, you know, these ragtag football groups that are coming out of the woodwork. I'm seeing them like crazy. Lacrosse groups. Oh my gosh, I get so much from full lacrosse.
Mhm.
You know, they're making money. I feel like we should be able to get a
We
little bit
should
more
make
out of it
money.
too. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I don't want to, you know, cut off my nose to spite my face, because I want people to still come to us. But I think that we have the facilities where people will still want to come to us.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot of conversation to be had about that. And that's a study that I have to do, but that's going to be a big, long conversation and a lot of documents that we're going to have to look at. And hopefully at that time we can meet in person so we can lay it out and say, here's what this town's doing. Here's what this town's doing. Where do we want to be?
Yeah.
And we'll look at towns that are similar to us. And we're not just going to throw, you know, prices against the wall. What's Melrose doing? What's Stoneham doing? What's Reading doing? What's, you know, Linfield doing? What's Winchester doing? And see if we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So.
And Dan, the next thing we want to do after that, once we set these prices for these out of town groups, which definitely need to go up, but we need to tie them in with some of the restaurants downtown. So, you know, after their soccer game or after they go to Brothers or they go to for an ice cream or whatever. So,
Right.
you know, we make it, you know, on meals tax as well.
And you know, Tony, that's a great point, because a couple of years ago, Tony was spearheaded this when we actually allowed that GPS soccer tournament to take our use our fields. Tony and somebody else put together this document of here's all the restaurants in town. We sent it to them, and I think that the town killed it that weekend.
Yeah, Memorial Day weekend, which is traditionally a kind of a slow weekend for restaurants, I can tell you that Public Kitchen killed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's good information that we can certainly put out there, and we want to be good partners with our friends downtown anyways. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Jed? Can't hear you now, buddy.
No?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So someone approached me the other day about the burnout field, that we're not allowing any little, whatever it's called, the softball league to use it until the high school plays on it first.
That's not the case.
That's what I was told by someone who's thought I was participating in the softball.
Then nobody's asked me.
Oh, they were told Dennis Gazio told Tim Donahue that no, you can't use the field until the high school plays on it first.
I haven't heard that.
Okay, well,
Because
apparently it's out
I've already permitted it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
someone asked me, you know, that's what I was told, to check into that. So from what I was told, they're not allowed to use the field until the high school plays on it first.
Well, if that's the case, the high school played on it last night. So played on
Okay,
it
okay. Then
Yeah.
I was asked the question a week ago, so
on Monday, so we're good.
I got asked last week. I said, I'll bring it up next week. So
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, again, that never came out of my mouth or my office. So, you know,
yeah, I didn't think so. That would be silly.
no. My thing is, if there's a field that's available and the high school's not there, go on it.
Play ball.
Get on. And you know, if it rains, be smart. Don't go on it.
Well, we had
But,
that
you know,
problem last year, right?
Exactly. But if it's a nice night, yeah, get out there. The kids need it.
Okay.
Yep.
I will follow up with the person who asked me.
Any other questions, comments,
I've-
Fields?
I have
Any-
2 questions about the Doyle Field, Dan. Last time we talked about the signs for I think it was youth softball, and there was a question about signs at the Doyle. Whatever happened with that?
Be honest, it went nowhere.
Okay.
But that's something that I can follow up on.
I was just wondering if they
Yep.
were happy with what we resolved.
Yep.
Also with Doyle, is it possible to get any porta potties over there? And the reason I ask is I helped to coach my son's baseball team, and we lost last night so many kids to having to go home because they had to use the bathroom and there was no facility. So at that
So-
age, it's nice to have some porta potties around.
So the town is not paying for porta potties at any fields this year. We did last year. We're not. We've told that to Little League specifically,
Okay.
and said that they could put them there if they wanted to. And what I was told was that they weren't going to put them at any fields.
Okay.
Now I'll tell you,
Yeah, I'll talk to Brian
Dr. Bryan.
because it was definitely an issue last night just in the first game. And at that age, it's hard to, you have lots of little kids running around. It's
Right.
nice to have a few porta potties.
I
that's
can tell you that I haven't been opening bathrooms or giving keys to anybody for bathrooms at Moulton or Maple Way. In fact, I've said that they're closed. Youth softball, to their credit, went to it must have been DPW and said, listen, we will pay for somebody to come in and clean the facility, sanitize the facility. Will you allow us to access? And they were granted access.
Okay.
So it depends, even, up in Landrigan, I haven't given youth lacrosse a key or anything. Youth soccer usually uses the Civic Center on weekends. I'm like, Civic Center's closed. We have a guy there sometimes, maybe if we have a rental group, who's there to sanitize it? Who's there to clean it?
Yeah.
And I think in fall, all those restrictions will ease. Even this summer, they might ease, but right now we're not there. So if
Understood.
Little League wants to do it, they have permission. I know Pure Baseball put one down at Ewell.
Okay.
So-
I'll talk to Brian. I'll see if he can help.
Yeah, good luck with
Thank
it. Anything else?
Dan, is there any update on the pickleball courts?
So they're being done this summer. That's what I'm told. I don't have any time frame. I haven't seen any sketches or drawings of it. I just know that they're still happening. And I know that the people can't wait for them to get there.
Yeah. I didn't know if by the fall, if they'd be up
That's
and running.
what I'm told is by the fall, but construction anything
Yeah.
can happen.
Okay.
Will they be permitted for pickleball the same way tennis is?
We'll have that conversation. That'll be that's coming up in my next discussion. Yeah.
To the full away thing that we do, right?
You got
That's
a
all
little
one project.
you have a little feedback there.
Well, it's tied into the we do up there 4 away, no?
Anybody catch that?
No.
You were good for a little bit, Jed.
Hold up a sign.
Yeah. Give him a whiteboard. All right, well, so we will move to new business then, and we'll start with the Dobbins tennis courts. This is on the agenda, and specifically the play local scheduling system that we use. So I received an email from a gentleman, Bill Ryan. Bill's a very nice guy. He's an avid tennis player. And the subject line was, can we get rid of play local for the tennis reservations? So at the time that the agenda was done, and at the time of his concern and complaint, there was an issue with play local. Play local was having some sort of interface issue with Google. So if you put in Wakefield to search for courts, it wasn't necessarily Wakefield, Massachusetts. You could click on Wakefield, Massachusetts, but it might send you to Wakefield, New Hampshire, Wakefield, wherever. Same thing was happening with Arlington. Same thing was happening with Reading. It was happening with all the towns. So people were not finding the courts they wanted. When I went and searched for courts, I would always sit there and see reservations available because I always put in 01880. I just said, geez, I just use the zips. I'd find it, no problem. It go to the exact location I wanted. As I understand it, and I put Anmol from Play Local, I put him in contact with a lot of people who had concerns. And even Kathy Healy, the high school tennis coach, Kathy was having issues. Kathy rents the courts all the time. So if she's having issues, there's a problem. So I put him in contact with everybody. It was a Google related issue, and it seems to have been resolved. That being said, Bill Ryan had sent me some information about other tennis courts or other reservation sites. Now, he comes from a private club background. So, he plays a lot of tennis, so he's used to scheduling it. I don't think I'd want to go to that kind of interface. I do like Play Local. For me, it's very simple. I don't have to be the one reserving the courts, because I'll be honest, if I had to reserve the courts for people who want them, we'd have to hire an assistant tomorrow. There's just that many requests. And we don't get any revenue from it. It's totally free, so we'd have to charge to do that. But Bill had some legit concerns. And these are some things that I want some input on, because I know some of you guys have played tennis and have reserved courts. Bill would like to go to 90-minute blocks. Now, my concern with that is, I have a few concerns. The biggest one is the high school right now, this time of year, uses the courts from roughly 2 to 7. So really 7 to 10 is the only time frame that's available to be booked. If we were to do an hour and a half, you're getting 2 rentals per court per night. Right now, we get 3 rentals per court per night. So that I think I'm still in favor of the hour, because my thing is more participation is better than less. That's just my feeling. But then, in this is probably the biggest point he had, is anybody can just show up at the court and just use it, which is fine. He likes the first come, first serve policy of, I'm there, I'm going to use it. I do, again, I prefer the reservation, because you want to know when you're able to get on a court. And did somebody show up 5 minutes ago? And, if you have the reservation and somebody shows up 5 minutes ago, sorry. But if they showed up 5 minutes ago, well, they're going to be there for an hour or an hour and a half in this case. So people are supposed to wait around. So I kind of like the reservation, but I understand his point. So I guess he has seen altercations where, geez, I just showed up and I'm hitting around and I can't play. But this person did the right steps. They had the reservation. And then there's and this is probably the biggest one. This is the one that really I'm focused on. Somebody might book a court. And right now you can rent a court 14 days in advance. I think I want to talk to Play Local and see if we can make it 7, just to make it a little more equitable. If you're booking out 14 days in advance, weather could be good, could be great. Your plans might change. And then people don't give it up. So the court's booked, nobody's there. And again, that's because it's free. So I don't know if we want to go to a small fee-based system where it ensures that people show up, or do we just want to keep it as is? He's the first person who's come to me with those concerns. I had the other concerns about being unable to rent the courts through Play Local. And again, I didn't have the issue because I went in through the zip code, and I would tell people put in the zip code and I think you'll see no problems. And that's kind of the feedback I got. When I went to the site today and looked at it, there was no issue. I could have reserved a court like that. So I don't know, I'm looking for feedback as to what you think. What should we do? Do we just keep it status quo until there's more problems?
I have a lot of thoughts. So I grew up playing tennis, actually, and all through my youth. My mom worked at a tennis club, so and actually my mom was in town last week and we went to the Dobbins tennis courts, and I didn't know that we had Play Local. I haven't played tennis a lot in my adult life with the kids around, but so I didn't know we had Play Local there. And it was fine. There were open courts, and so I actually asked someone about it. I was like, oh, did you reserve that court, or is it open? Because some guy was coming up and he's like, no, we don't even use the Play Local thing. So that's what that guy told me. And he looked legit. He looked like a tennis player. So he probably has been there a bunch. So anyway, that was what they said. And I was like concerned at first, because, I looked on the thing and on the sign and it says Play Local. So I was like, oh, let me try and book a court. And I found it pretty easy, Dan. Right. So I think I also did the zip code though. So that could be why. In terms of, sorry if I'm just going to tell you all my thoughts. In terms of the 90-minute block, I can see where that guy's coming from, because if I'm assuming that he's got, he's playing a match, maybe he's got a partner and they're playing doubles match, or he has someone come and they're playing a match, and you can't do that in an hour. But I also see that it wouldn't, when the high school's in and then we only have from 7 to 10, that's not great to do 90-minute blocks. Maybe a consideration, like a compromise, would be 60-minute blocks when high school's in season, and then once they're out, consider doing 90-minute blocks, or consider doing 90-minute blocks only on the weekends and doing 60-minute blocks during the weekdays. And then the last thought, I spent my whole life like going to the public courts and being like, oh, there's no court available. Oh, well, like, let's move on. Because if they drive to our courts and there's nothing open, which there wasn't initially when I showed up the other day, I was like, oh, I'll just go down to the courts in Melrose, so, I think people should be used to having, I guess I'm coming from the tennis player's perspective versus like the recreational perspective of someone that just wants to hit around. I don't know that they would necessarily go down to Melrose to play, but I don't know. I think a fee, if we're trying to like encourage it to be used, I think a fee would be, what about people, like what if the court is open and nobody reserved it on Play Local, so then you can just go for free? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
How would that even work? And I've never been to a public outdoor court that charge, so I don't know. And maybe there's places around that do, I don't know. So I would be against that. But again, if that's where things are going in different towns, I'd be open to like hearing about that.
I know that Reading, they put a monitor down at the courts during the heavy use time frames.
Mhm. That makes sense.
And they charged, and I don't know if that's how it is today, but that's how it was in last couple of years. They put a monitor down there who would basically reserve the court on site for you, but you had to buy like a pass to do it. I'll be honest, that's not something that I'm interested in. I don't think that the tennis courts need to be revenue generators.
Yeah.
But I think if we're ensuring that somebody's going to show up for their time, as opposed to blanket booking them because they feel like it.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
Mhm.
And I really don't know the right way to go here. And again, I will say that I can probably count the amount of concerns and complaints that I've had about the tennis courts. I can probably count them on 2 hands, and I've been here 7 years. So it's not a bad problem, but I don't want it to get worse. I like to be proactive instead of reactive.
How bad were these altercations that the man said he had? I'm sorry, I forgot his name already, but that he had said that he had observed.
How bad were they really, or how bad were they in writing?
Well, I would imagine that it's just people being like, I'm not getting off the court,
And that's probably what it is. And I didn't get too much detail or too much info. He's a gentleman. If you look up the definition of gentleman, Bill Ryan would be there. He's just such a nice guy. And I've never met him in person. It's just our interactions have always been very cordial, very pleasant. So I take him at his word that it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to happen in a lot of places. So it's a slippery slope. Always the biggest concern that we've had for years was flying baseballs coming from into the courts. I don't know that that's fixed or not. This is the first real concern I've had about a problem with bookings and a problem with altercations there. But maybe there's more and we just haven't heard it.
Absolutely.
So I just don't know the right way to go with this.
I wonder if there's a way to somehow survey or ask the people who are there on the courts on a regular basis. I personally don't really know much about tennis. I've never played, but do we have any contacts, or like when they have to reserve through Play Local, is there email that an email address that we could reach out and somehow put together some sort of survey, even if it's something casual, just to give us some more information to work from?
Yeah, I know that I know the Play Local has everybody's email addresses, because if there had to be a cancellation because, say, the high school is going to have a makeup match and it's at night and we need to bump rentals, they contact everybody. And Z's was sorry, but there's a high school tennis match that's going to take place tonight. We have to bump your rental. Here's your refund. If they're out of town, we charge them. Here's your refund. I can tell you, I've never seen $1 from Play Local, and they send me, here's the updates of who's booking courts, and there's never been anybody from out of town. I think anybody who is from out of town who wants to reserve a court has been smart and had a friend from in town reserve the court for them. So, Tony, any thoughts on this? Because I know that you've done tennis before.
I'm not a big tennis player, but we need to charge, Dan. Obviously, I respect your, and I understand it's not a revenue maker. But if people are just booking courts for the sake of booking courts, I mean, we need to charge, even if it's $5 for, an hour and a half, we charge something. And, maybe $10 will hold them to that court time. So if they're going to book blanket time, then we charge them $10.
I will say that when I got here, 7.5 years ago, whatever it's been at this point, the rec department did take all the reservations. We reserved I can't say we, because I didn't have anything to do with it. The courts were reserved through the office, and they charged a $10 per hour fee. When I decided and proposed to go to the Play Local site, we voted at the time to, it's simple. It's no man hours on our end. But I think tennis has changed in the last 7 years. And from what I understand, and I'm only getting a lot of information about tennis from Sandy Palmer, who's our tennis pro during the summer. We're in a tennis explosion right now.
Yes.
It's a sport that during the pandemic just took off because you could play it.
Yeah. My other question,
restrictions.
Yeah, my other question, Dan, we have the courts open once the high school from 7 to 10.
Yeah.
What goes on from 8 o'clock in the morning till school gets out?
So people do use it, and I do not have it where people can book it. It's just first come, first serve. I've only done it during the heavy traffic hours.
Okay, so there's no issues with those morning slots?
Not
Okay.
that I've ever heard. And, I'm down there during the summer, because we have our tennis lessons, and we use the first 2 courts, which are court 1 and court 6. And, Sandy's had to ask people to move to the other courts because we have the lessons going on. And they've always been very pleasant about it. Oh, geez, I'm sorry, I didn't know. So that's been my experience. But I also know that I'm one person. And every situation is different.
Dan, you said that you get an email from Play Local that tells you about the reservations. How many people are making reservations like per week? Do you know?
I'll have to get you that number.
Because
it varies.
And
if it's a good weather week, they could be booked.
Yeah. And
night like so tomorrow looks like bad weather.
Nobody
might be wide open. And then of course we have the problem that the lights are on because we don't have a system like that I can turn off from my phone. Those come on automatically. There's a sensor.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an expense being paid out for the courts because lights are on. Now it doesn't get billed to me, but that's
right.
That's one that's there.
And do you have any idea how many people might be reserving courts and then not showing up? Like, do we know that that's actually a problem?
I believe that to be an issue. And I think that can be resolved if we, instead of having 14 days, if we go to 7, I think that deters that and limits it a lot. Because, your mom, how many times does your schedule change in 7 days? Every day, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's easy. But I think he brought up a valid point that there's no penalty for somebody not showing.
Can we blacklist people? If you make 3 reservations and don't show up, then
we have to know who didn't show up.
Okay, yeah.
Right. How would we know that?
Okay.
Right.
I didn't know if that was a possibility.
Right. And I can tell you from, having worked in another community, so my time in Arlington, when I was in Arlington, Play Local was a startup. And we were the pilot program that they had used everywhere. So that was the first town they had been in. We had 0 issues, and we didn't charge money to use the courts. It worked there. I'll have to talk to Joe, my old boss, to see what they're doing now. again, it's that slippery slope. I could do either, but I want to do what's right. And I don't know what right is. And I think, we don't have to make any decision tonight. I think, I can certainly go back and get some more information from other towns who use and play local. See what, are you doing 60 minutes? Are you doing 90 minutes? Are you charging? Are you not charging? Are you just charging for peak times? Are you reserving full day or just certain hours? We can bring play local into the conversation next meeting, invite them to come in and, hey, what are the trends that you're seeing?
Yeah.
And get more information, because I think this is a longer discussion to be had. But I wanted to start somewhere because, and this will bring up Gene's point. So we have the pickleball courts that are coming online eventually. And my plan is to have them reserved through Play Local because they do pickleball courts too. And those tennis courts the pickleball courts are going to be multi-use courts. So going to be tennis and pickleball. So we're in a whole other conundrum now of, how does, I want to do tennis, but they want to do pickleball. How does that work? So, and I know that's not a unique situation. I know it goes on here in Reading. I know it goes on in Belmont. That's something that I need to do more research on. And I have a little bit of time ahead of me. How are they handling those situations? Because that's going to be a new predicament for me.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested to hear about other towns. For sure.
Yeah, similar to Julie, I mean, I played tennis growing up a lot as a child, and having to reserve tennis courts is very foreign to me. But, it'd be interesting to see what other towns are doing and kind of get their feedback, because maybe it is a thing that I'm just not used to anymore. And, that's the new wave of the times. It's just, similar to Julie's, when tennis court's full, you drive onto the next tennis court. That tennis court's full, you drive onto the next one. It's just.
And I think one of the things that I was, when we first came up with the play local concept here in Wakefield, was I was getting calls at the time, people from Melrose are using our courts. Their courts are full, so they come over here. Now, whether they were or weren't, I don't know. I don't know how anybody would know somebody's from somewhere else. Yeah, I live in Reading. I wear Wakefield shirts all the time around town. I just do. So people might think I'm from Wakefield. I live here, I live in Reading, but I wear Wakefield gear, So I don't know how somebody would assume that they're from another town unless they talk to them. So we decided to go to the fee-based thing where, okay, now we're deterring them from coming and we're going to take care of our own. It's just an evolving thing. And like you guys, I didn't play a lot of tennis growing up, but I lived across the street from a park. My parents still lived there. And we just walk over there and just play. It just, reserving a court wasn't a thing. And when we were there long enough, or people waiting around long enough, and you became uncomfortable because they were waiting so long, you left. It's just, it happened. I don't know that goes on anymore. So, Gene, do you have any thoughts? Because you always have good thoughts.
I really don't have too many. I guess I'd like to know what some input from the company that does it, to see how many towns they deal with do charge. I'm not as big a fan of charging as I am. I think I would lean towards keeping it to the 60 minutes as opposed to the 90 minutes, just because the idea is to let all people, no matter how skillful they are, take advantage of the courts.
Right.
And so, if you just allow the people that are really skilled at playing tennis, then the other people are never going to develop the skills to be, good tennis players. But that's how I lean right now. I could change my mind, but I think we need more information either from them or from other towns about how they do it. And years ago, I don't remember exactly when you came on, who was doing what as far as the tennis courts go, but the original back in the day was that you bought a card, a tennis pass for like $10, and that allowed you to book time, and you got a permit, so that if somebody was down there with no permit, you could go and say, here's my permit for that time.
Right.
And myself or whoever's the recreation secretary at the time would leave the permit in an envelope in one of the town hall things, and they pick it up at their convenience.
Right.
So, but it was $10 just for the permit. It wasn't $10
For the course,
per
right.
session.
Right.
So, unless that changed somewhere, and I don't think so, because I was on the board then. I don't remember it ever being $10, per time.
Right. Okay. I mean, obviously, this is a longer discussion to be had, and I definitely will make sure this is on the agenda next meeting because I think, I definitely want Rich to be part of the conversation. I know Rich had spent a lot of time at courts. Bob has a unique perspective on things. Chris has been around forever, so I think we definitely need more conversation. But I think this is a good start, and it gives me a good base as to what I need to get to bring to next time, so we can move forward in the right direction. Because again, that's my concern isn't making a decision, it's making what's the best decision for Wakefield. So that's always in the first and forefront for me. So my other not issue, but area where I need a little bit of consulting on is, so Galvin basketball courts. So the Galvin basketball courts right now are being used by WBA on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's wonderful. I mean, I'm thrilled that the kids can get a basketball season. Everybody's missed out so much. I think that's a good thing. So that's using a lot of time. I have one request from, bear with me for a second here, because I want to make sure I use it right. Communitas, which is the special needs programming part that's in town. They are looking to use Galvin courts on Tuesdays from 5 to 7 for 6 weeks, from May 18th to June 29th. To me, absolute no-brainer. Again, a population underserved needs something to look forward to. I have no problem renting the courts to them. And again, it's 5 to 7. So if we, the courts are generally lit up until 10 o'clock anyways, though I haven't turned lights on yet. That's coming soon. The weather hasn't been all that cooperative to do it. Probably this coming weekend, we'll flip them on so people can play at their leisure. So we'll do a permit for them. Another group led by John Walsh, who is a Wakefield resident involved with WBA, and Paul Moran, who is high school coach in Marblehead, I think. They run a summer program with us. They're fabulous. They want to do a league. And they want to do a league on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, starting late May to early June. Starting late May or early June, ending late July. And they want to do it from 4 to 9.
Wow.
Any other year, I'd sit there and say, maybe we can make it work 2 nights a week. I admittedly have some reservation, not about the group. They sent me an email today because they knew that I was bringing this to you guys. I said, I need more guidance on this. This is not something that I want to make a decision on myself. Of the league that they're having, there's going to be 6 Wakefield teams in there, which is great. But do we want to have our prime courts booked up really right now 4 days a week where the public can't use, when people have been dying to get outside and do something? I don't know. I don't know what the optics are on that.
It's 4 nights a week for 6 weeks.
Well, they would only do 2, but then WBA is there too. So
WBA ends what, in June?
End of June.
Yeah.
So-
That's a huge time block, Dan. Would
know.
they be agreeable to maybe using, one court at the Galvin, then maybe Maple Way, or 1 court at JJ, and then rotate?
Right. Well, here's the other thing. And I don't know what the use of JJ looks like on a regular night. I don't know.
No.
I know what it used to be like, but now that we have the Galvin courts, I imagine it's less. Is JJ an option? Now, granted, they're not as good, they're not as safe, they aren't, but they're going to know that up front. Is that something that we consider? And there would be revenue out of that. No. Is it a lot? No. But it's something, and it's JJ. I don't know. So I'm looking for some guidance. Can't hear you, Jed. You were great to start. There's a place where you can type your question in if you want. I don't know what he's saying.
I think 4 nights a week is to be blocked off is too much. I think it's too much, but yeah. I mean,
I agree.
I feel for the person that wants to bring their kid to go shoot hoops, and so I think 4 nights a week is, you're pretty much saying you can't do it if you can do it these off nights or on weekends, but you're pretty much taking all the weekdays up. So yeah, I think it's too much.
Jed's question was what age group? So it's middle school and high school age kids. I think they're doing a middle school because John Walsh's son is middle school age kid and he is a very good ball player. He's going to have his kids, but I'm sure there's going to be some sort of high school element to it too. And so I know there's going to be 6 teams from Wakefield. I don't know how many teams total. And I think my biggest thing is if this was pre-pandemic, okay, we're going to do 2 nights a week, but there's 5 others, no problem. Now we have WBA outside because they're having an outdoor season. Couldn't be happier for them to provide that for them. Now we're going to take 2 more days for some Wakefield kids, but some not Wakefield kids. When can, as Todd said, father and son to go down to shoot around. And maybe they can't anyways because people down there playing it, but maybe they can. But if we don't give them that chance, it's not remotely possible.
Yeah. They get 1 court at Galvin, they can play at JJ, they can play at Mapleway. And we can clean up Mapleway for them.
Is there any option to bring any of these people inside, Dan?
No,
I'm not sure what the regulations are.
no there's just no space in the Civic Center right now. And
I'm saying, what about one of like the high school court indoors or Galvin?
I can't get into the schools myself. For my own summer programs, I'm not allowed in the schools.
Okay.
All summer. So.
Are there lights at Mapleway?
There's not lights at Mapleway.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So that,
But
9 o'clock.
Right. But they'd have to tweak their schedule.
Exactly.
I like the idea of JJ and Galvin splitting it, and they're also close enough. So if
Yeah,
carpooling or something, you can walk easily back and forth.
I agree.
What would you be charging them for this?
$10 an hour per court.
So it's, it was a 5-hour period, so $50 a night?
Yeah.
$50.
$50 a night. Now
They're making,
they're-
this is a camp,
no,
so,
it's not a camp. This is a league.
well, a league.
Yep.
Well, the league's making money.
And they're making some money. And so Paul Moran is a businessman. He's a coach. He's a businessman. And he's one of the most honest people I've met. Paul will tell me up front, Dan, you tell me what the cost is so we know. We give the kids t-shirts so they have delineated teams, and we pay for referees to be there. We have a few administrative costs that we have to cover. That's it. So it's not a major revenue generator, but something will come out of it. He owns the Paradise, or he's a part owner of the Paradise Golf up on Route 1 in Middleton. So he's a business guy. But he's also a basketball junkie. So getting the kids out there is first and foremost.
We give them a hybrid approach to the courts. You can do this court and this court.
Right.
We can't tie up.
I can't,
That's a huge block.
that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And again, pre-pandemic, I wouldn't have thought of this. I would have just said, yes, yeah, we can do that. It's 2 days. I'll give you a permit. Any problems, let me know. We'll put some signage down there. We'll blast it. We'll let the public know these courts are not available, but these courts are available. This day and age, I'm just not comfortable doing that. But I wanted to run it by you all first because I'm going to go to them and tell them this is what we're doing. And I also admittedly want the teeth behind me that, this is how the board feels about it. So yeah, I'm taking myself off the hook a little bit. But I'm not going to deny that, but I want to do what's right. Again, for me, it's always about what's the right thing to do. And the almighty buck in my end, though needed, isn't the end all be all. So do we need?
Well, you're not going to get rich on that anyway.
No,
I mean, you're not making any
No,
money on that.
no.
So,
Certainly not. So are we comfortable if I offer them 1-and-1, or even if they want to do all JJ, is that okay?
who uses, mostly adults use JJ, right?
Do they?
No,
No?
it's kids and pickup games.
There used to be adults.
Yeah, I think that
They're
was
not there
before-
anymore?
I think that was before the Galvin courts opened, because Galvin's just used all the time, which is great to see. I look out my office and there's kids at Galvin from the moment school ends to whenever. They're always there. And they're there all summer too. Hence why we have a lot of the trash issues, but that's okay. They're there. They're using courts. And it's actually seems to have gotten better. So, okay, I will reach out to them and see how we can make it work where courts not being monopolized. There's still opportunities for the public to go out there and throw some JJ time at them too. Hopefully we can make everybody happy that way. Hopefully. That's all I have. I don't know if you guys have anything for me. Any to-dos, any needs, any wants, any questions, comments, concerns?
I just want to wish Todd all the best with the
Absolutely.
baby
Yep.
and move if that happens, and appreciate all the time he spent on the board. And
And I love your t-shirt. I have the same one.
Oh, do you? Yeah, my
yeah.
my buddy just bought it. My buddy just bought it for me. So
Welcome to the club.
it's my good workout shirt.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Things, things are fun now, Todd.
So I hope to buy a house in Wakefield and maybe join the board again once I have a little bit more skin in the game and the kids are a bit older too.
From my end, please don't be a stranger. Thank you for all your time, your thoughts, because you put a lot into this and it's greatly appreciated by me.
Thank you.
And
All right.
Of course, we welcome Tony back too. We're thrilled to have his voice back. Tony, for you guys who don't know, has been a confidant for me since day one. Tony was on the hiring committee for me, and he's been an ear to bend, helped me get the civic center for the department. So he's done a lot, and I know that he's got more to offer for us. So
Made a lot of enemies getting that civic center back.
well, they became mine too. But it was all worthwhile.
Yeah.
Well, if we don't have anything else, I just need a motion from you guys.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Second.
Second.